Quiet on the set. Quiet on the set. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's the political guy, Terrence Atkins, and I'm coming to you again with another video. The title of this video is Get on Your Square and Stay There, How to Build a Political Foundation. So first of all, I just want to thank everyone who has, subscribed, watched the video, who has sent me messages, calls, put hearts on the video, shared the video. Thank you so much. Thank you for all that. Thank you for all the positive message. Thank you for the critiques and everything else. So I'm just thankful for that. I was going to do a video. I said my personal goal was 100 views, and I got 100 views in less than 24 hours. And I was like, whoa, so I probably need to change my personal goals. So I took that as a cue that, simplifying political education is much needed. And I'm just glad to be able to use my almost degree for something. So the first thing I want to talk about in starting your own building your political foundation is who represents you. Who's your congressman? Who is your local politician? Who's your sheriff? Who is, school board? Who is the city councilman? Who is your mayor? Most people know the city government, their local government. They know their mayor and they know their specific council person, but they're not, certain about who their house representative is or their state representative is or who represents them locally. So one thing that I wanted to do to help you guys out is I went and located who represents me. All I did was Google who represents me. I pretty much tried to make this as simple as possible. So I just get on Google and type in what I'm looking for and, research from there, pull what I feel like is necessary or beneficial. So there's a ballotopedia.org website. All the websites, anything that I talk about today will be in the description box, and you'll be able to go to the description box and look and see and check out some of these websites and some of these laws and acts that I'm be talking about today. So with the Ballotopedia Who Represents Me website, you go in, you type in your address and I think your email, and they'll let you know who represents you as far as Congress, as far as the state legislature, as far as the state Supreme Court, judicial officials and all of that. I'm going to actually try to find the other website where it just uses your location. You can just tap the little location arrow and it'll automatically pull it up. But you have to find out who represents you first so that you can see what they're doing and what they're not doing. Another way, once you find out who represents you, most of the times on these sites, they'll give you the person's social media. With it being 2019, we're kind of moving into social media age, and we have to be aware of who's on social media, who's on Twitter, who's on Facebook, who's on Instagram, who's active on those things. Because I know a lot of people work second shift and they don't know, when the district council meeting is or when the, city planning meeting and stuff is. And even if they did know, sometimes they can't get there. So we have to be a little bit more vigilant with our representation on social media. We have to say, look, I work or I'm going to school and I can't make it at these times. Can you get information on social media? Can you get these articles on your social media so that I have time to look at them, read over them, and see if I like them, see if, what I can do or what I need to say as far as the, laws and things being changed in your city. So the first thing you have to do is find out who represents you. And when you find out who represents you, you have to be vigilant on that person. You have that politicians reply to pressure, not applause. So you have to pressure them. One thing about the ADOS community, we just go on feelings and we just go, we like this person or we like that person, and we don't really look at policy and what they have and have not done. So we have to be more vigilant, especially now that social media is around. You can talk to your representation on social media in an instant. Email is around. You can send an email in an instant. So you have to know who these people are in order to get work done, get things done for you. So number 2 is what's important to you. So when you're building your political foundation, you have to figure out what is important to me. I mean, you can have a list of 60 different items that are important to you, but each candidate or each position of policy is not going to fall with your guidelines. So you have to kind of narrow it down a little bit to some major issues that they're going to cover. And then with your more minor issues, you can, once you figure out who your state and local politicians are, you can adjust your base towards who the politician is and what the specific position is that they are in. So the number one thing on my political foundation and my political base is reparations. Reparations is key to the American descendant of slave community. Reparations is key, and it's been expressed in the racial wealth gap. It's been expressed in a whole bunch of different things. So if a political candidate, especially the president, is not talking about reparations, if congressman or a senator is not talking about reparations, they can pretty much count me out. It has been expressed in many different ways that race and racial policies have set the African American community behind. There are many articles out there. One of them states, there's a 100-year penalty on black people. So it's saying that in order for us to even get to where we need to be, it takes 100 years. To get to where our counterparts are, it'll take 100 years. So reparations is key on my political foundation. That's the number one thing. I got it written in bold in my notebook. So reparations is key. Another thing is we're talking about HR 40, which is a House of Representatives bill to study reparations. Well, that bill was written in 1989 by John Conyers and some other people, and it was introduced to the Senate then. So it was revised in 2001. So from 2001 to 2019, there haven't been any revisions on HR 40. So in that time frame, there have been numerous studies on reparations. Ta-Nehisi Coates, A Case for Reparations, the Racial Wealth Gap, Dr. William Sandy Darity, and Antonio Moore, who's co-founder of the ADOS movement. There have been a lot of studies done on reparations that can tell you, how many hours was worked, how we can, rectify the situation. Also, if you want to look at something else, ADOS101.com, that's where I get a lot of information from about the laws and the different things that we're looking at as far as the Black agenda. So reparations is key, central focus to my political base. And it should be a key political focus to any ADOS person's base. ADOS is the American Descendants of Slaves. We're making a key distinction between us and other Black immigrants and other people of color for this specific justice claim of reparations. And I just want to make that point. Like, we have to differentiate and delineate ourselves from other groups of minorities in order to be successful in our goals of getting reparations. So, number two on what's important for me is education. We all have, nieces, nephews, cousins. If you don't have kids, you have somebody at your church or somebody, your friend got kids. So education needs to be a central focus to your political foundation. So one of the things I'm going to talk about is how, these policies, how these political bases fall in different forms of politics. I kind of named this one Truancy Policy Kamala, because with the education policy that she put in place with truancy, where if kids miss so many days, their parents were basically arrested. So there was one article about this one girl who had sickle cell anemia, and anybody who knows anything about sickle cell anemia, they know that it's it comes up automatic. It comes up, and you don't have anything to do with it. So when you have it, you're in the hospital pretty much for weeks at a time. And I don't know that much about it, but I know someone who has sickle cell anemia, and I see her on Facebook, and I see her talk about her struggles and stuff with it. So I know that that's a hard disease. And the woman's mom was basically arrested. So you have to take a look at someone who is running for office. Kamala was the Attorney General for the state of California, and she put this truancy policy in place, which arrested black women mostly, because who's missing out of school most of the time? Black kids. So it was a policy that she put in place in California, and you have to understand, when people put policy in place in their state, they might come back and put it in nationally. Now, Kamala has apologized for this policy, but she did not go back and turn around what she did. She did not go back and rectify the situation that she had put into place. So education is key. You have to understand what these people are doing and what they have done when they're trying to get your vote. So for education, I wanted to bring it back to a local thing. In Decatur, Alabama, I'm a member of actually House District 8. My district my part of the city is the oldest part of the city, and we were removed from our state house district. We were gerrymandered. And the person who is over, the majority of the city education as far as state house representatives is Terry Collins. And she is our representative, and she's also the education policy chair, and she's on the Ways and Means Committee of Education. So she's done a lot of things that I do not agree with, and she has done one thing that I have agreed with. And I'm going to talk about those two policies just a little bit. One of them is the Alabama Accountabilities Act, where the Alabama Accountabilities Act basically takes tax dollars and diverts them to private schools. And there are also tax credits for sending your kid to private school or donating to a private school. With this policy and the article that I read that's going to be in the description box, it says that there are 4,312 students in the program. Only about 980 of those students are around a failing school system, which is what the program was started for. It was started for anyone who was at a failing school to be able to send their child to another school, a private school, that was not failing. But only 24% of the people who are receiving AAA are close enough to one of the 76 failing schools. So I do not like this policy because it is not written correctly. If those students are not close enough to a private school and they're at a failing school, this money needs to be diverted back into those failing schools. So we have to be more proactive when we're looking at policy and things like that. When it says failing school, we have to say, okay, how many of these schools have a school that's close enough to them that they can go to and utilize these funds? Because most of these places, Alabama's a pretty rural state. So some of these schools, it's 45 minutes to the next school. It's an hour and a half to the next school. So you have to look at the state of Alabama as a whole and say, how is this going to benefit Alabama? Because it didn't benefit if only 24% of the people in failing schools who was supposed to majority affect are actually receiving the funding. So we have to know what the policy is. They print it out in the paper. If you don't get the paper, I subscribe to the paper. We'll figure something out. If you want to read the article, we'll figure it out. But that policy is not beneficial to anything that we're doing. And I fought Terry Collins for that because she's the education policy chair, which means you're over the writing of these laws and you don't understand that this law is ineffective. So we have to be more vigilant about who we're electing. One of the policies that I do agree with is the Alabama Literacy Act, which says that if you're in the third grade and you don't have a proficient reading level, or if you're not reading at third grade level, that they will hold you back. And I feel that is very necessary, because in third grade, you should be able to read a 300-page novel. You need to be able to form words, to form sentences, to form paragraphs, form chapters, to form a book. You don't have to necessarily understand what you're reading or comprehend everything that you're reading, but you need to be able to formulate those sentences, formulate those words, and be able to read to get an understanding. And I feel like at third grade, you should be able to read a novel pretty much. I remember being in third grade in Miss Hubbard's class and having to stand up and read the social studies book, read a paragraph. So in third grade, there should be literacy, complete literacy, before someone goes to the fourth grade. Because in fourth grade, it's a totally different ballgame, fifth grade, all that, another. So education is key to my political base because I have 5 god kids, and they're all in the public school system. With them being in the public school system, that means they're subject to the government. So I need to know what the government is doing as far as education, educating these kids, educating the next generation. Because from doing this, I understand that there was a lack, especially in politics. I understand that there was a lacking in politics. They didn't teach us that this was very important and it was more necessary to our daily lives than algebra. Pretty much. So one of the other major key issues is mass incarceration. Now, these are the things on my political foundation. So if you don't, most black people know somebody who was locked up in the 80s, the 90s, 2000s. So you have to understand this section is actually called Crime Bill Joe. So Joe Biden is running for president, like Kamala Harris is, and they both have some sketchy policies in their background. Now, I don't know if Joe Biden has given a sincere apology. He has apologized, but I don't know if he has given a sincere apology for the crime bills that he constructed. And I have also put those crime bills in the description box. 84, 88, 91, and I also added 87, which is the Sentencing Act. Yeah, Sentencing Act of 1987. Like I was saying with Kamala, you can go back and say, oh, well, it was a mistake that we did this, or it was a mistake that the policy didn't work out how it was supposed to. But if you're not going back and saying, I am doing everything that I can to change this policy. I'm doing everything I can. There was a reversal under Barack Obama in 2001 of some of the policy. 2013 of some of the policy. I'm going to add that in the description box as well. But it wasn't enough. And also in that 2013 the 2013 change, it tells about the people who tried to change it before. And Joe Biden did try to change it in 2001. That's where I got 2001 from. He did try to change it in 2001, but it still wasn't what it needed to be. I don't feel like there should have still been prison time for these people. There should have been some type of rehabilitation program for people who were subject to the crack cocaine epidemic. Just like they're doing with the opioid epidemic right now. They're trying to get, rehab. They're trying to get funding for hospital stays and all that type of stuff. The same thing should have happened with the crack epidemic. And with the crack epidemic, when you had crack, solid crack, you could have 1 gram and you would receive, it was a 1 to 100 measurement. So if you had 1 gram of coke, I think it was 3 grams of hard cocaine minimum was 5-year minimum sentence. You would have to have 300 grams of powder cocaine to get that same 5-year minimum sentence. So what Joe Biden was doing was trying to take it down to a 1 to 20 ratio. They all were trying to take it down, 115, 1 to 40, 1 to 50, but they never came and said, we need to rehabilitate these people. They need drug rehabs, they need counseling, they need all that. They just tried to, kind of clean it up. They just tried to kind of clean the bill up for us to be quiet and be appeased, basically. There was nothing in that bill that did significant restitution to those people who were subject to the crack epidemic in the late 80s, early 90s. Another part of the mass incarceration bill was the First Step Act. which I don't like that bill because it doesn't deal with the masses of people that are incarcerated. It deals with people at the federal level, which is great, but there was only about 4,000 people from the First Step Act numbers that are in there. So 4,000 people, there are literally 2.2 million people in jail or more, somewhere around there. So that 4,000 did help. I'm glad that those people got out. I'm glad that they were, rectified of the situations that they were in, but it wasn't enough. That's why it's called the First Step Act. It wasn't enough. Another thing that is key and essential to my political foundation is the social safety nets. Things like food stamps, HUD, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. Those things are, high on my list because I applied for food stamps. I had food stamps. A lot of people have food stamps. It's not anything to be embarrassed about. I know people that are on HUD. I know people that signed up for HUD and were, waitlisted for years and years and years. I know people that are on Social Security, and I know people who were trying to get disability and they were on waiting lists for years and they've been denied and they had to go back to work and some happened at work and they're still denied. So those things are key and essential, especially to the ADOS community. Those things, are safety nets for our grandparents and for us as well. Most of our grandparents are retired now or are in the process of being retired, and those things are needed for them to survive. With Trump and everything that he's trying to do with the Social Security and safety nets, Mitch McConnell, all of that, they're trying to cut it. They're trying to get rid of it. And if you get rid of that, you're basically killing the silent generation, whoever's before the baby boomers and the boomer generation. You're basically going to kill them if you take away these social safety net programs. So that is key to my political foundation. The last thing that I'm going to talk about in my political foundation is the environment. The environment is very, very important because we only have one planet. There's nowhere else for us to go if Earth, burns up or dissolves or whatever is going to happen. When you look on the internet, you see the mass amounts of fish and aquatic wildlife that are stuck in the plastic rings and have been eating straws and all this other stuff, and also the microplastics and the fibers that get into the fish and the aquatic wildlife. All of that stuff is key to us, key to survival. We have to drink water. We have to eat those fish. Well, we don't have to eat those fish, but I like fish. So, we eat those fish. We eat shrimp. We eat things out of the water. We like algae products for our hair and our skin. We like, those we like those type of things. And when you start polluting and you keep polluting, 3M. Yeah, I'm in Decatur, and 3M has just done us so wrong. Look up 3M Decatur. Look up 3M West Morgan, East Limestone, water, all that type of stuff. Look that up. I might put a couple articles in the description box about that too. But we're being poisoned by big business. They're dumping in the waterways, coal ash. There's hookworm in, the black belt of Alabama. So infrastructure needs to be on there. Hookworm, that's a third world disease. Like, they're in 2 hours away from me. People have hookworm. And that brings me to how big money kills the vote. When you have people who are running these campaigns, they need money. They need lots of money. There's a thing called Citizens United where they had took dark money, where they were trying to take dark money out of. I'm going to get back to y'all on Citizens United because I have to get that correct, because it's either Citizens United was the thing that they used to get the dark money back in, or it was overturned. It's either needs to be overturned or it was the key thing that was overturned. I'm going to have to get back to y'all on that. I'll put a link in the description. But these people need hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on what kind of race they are in. If you're running for president, you need 10, 20 million, you know. So the average American doesn't have that. You know, even if we all pull our $27, like Bernie Sanders pulled them $27 together, it took the whole country for him to get where he was at. So when you have more localized elections, these big businesses sponsor people. When I looked at followthemoney.org and I looked at Terry's campaign and I looked at Stratton Orr's campaign, they both had money from 3M. So when you see that your politicians have money, big money, big money, my $27 donation ain't comparing to the money that 3M gave them and to the Republican Party as well. But when you see that they're basically bankrolling these candidates, you can see why the world, the environment is in the dire straits that it is. Because they'll just allow things to happen and they'll say they don't know. I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know anything was going on. So that's why you have to build your political base. And I'm going to go through these, you know, kind of steps just a little bit, just to recap and close out the video because we're almost at 30 minutes. So first you got to figure out who represents you. Who is your local person? Who is your state person? Who is your congressman? Who is your senator? Who's the mayor? Who's the councilman? Who's the Department of Parks and Recreation's head person? Who does youth services? Figure that out. Most places have a city website or a county website that you can go to, and you can just type in, you know, whatever city you live in, Decatur, Alabama, city officials, and it'll pull up your city officials. Ballotopedia, which is in the description box. You can go to that, and you can type in your address and your email, and it'll tell you who your state representatives are, who your congresspeople are, who your senator is. So you have to know who these people are and what they do. Next, you're gonna get your social media because everybody on Facebook. Pretty much everybody that watches this video on Facebook and Twitter. So you're gonna find those people. You're gonna see if they're talking about the city. You're gonna see what they're talking about. You're gonna see if they're talking about issues that concern you, and then you're going to be vigilant upon them in the situations that concern you and your community. Step 2, you're gonna figure out what's important to you. Like I said, reparations is very important to me. Education, mass incarceration, the environment, social safety nets, Medicare, Medicaid, all that stuff. You have to figure out what's important to you, what's important to you, what's important to you. And then you can figure out what's important to the community, because a lot of these people do community things. Like I said, like Terry Collins does things for the whole city of Decatur. And, as far as the school system, like I said, we were gerrymandered out of our district, so I'm not going to go back into that. But this information is going to be key going into 2020. Well, going into right now, going into the primaries. Because once you see what people are doing and what they haven't done, you'll be able to gauge who you want to support. There are about 17, 18 Democratic candidates right now, and most of us vote Democrat. So the party is trying to figure out what it's going to do and where it's going. So you have to figure out, where are you at in this party? Am I a valued member? Is my vote valued? Or is big money valued more than my vote? And then you have to figure out how to make your vote equal. And the only way to make your vote equal is by getting together and figuring out your base. And getting together and making a solid block, solid ADOS block, and saying, this is our base, this is our agenda, this is what we want done, and this is what we want covered. And if you can't do that, thank you next, Ariana Grande. So I just wanted to come and give y'all another video today. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you have any questions, email me or leave it in the description box, write me on Facebook or Twitter. If you want me to cover a specific topic, or if you have something that you don't, quite understand, just let me know, and I'll, take the time and read and figure out what I can do with it to better, help everybody with it. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you.